Welcome to the Cosmic Busker. My name is Bobby Cody. This video is entitled What the Pentagon Released UFO Videos Show. In this video I want to take a look on, I believe it's April 28th or April 29th, the Pentagon released 3 raw videos that show United States Armed Forces pilots, I believe they're Navy pilots, recording 3 different UFOs on 3 separate occasions through their scopes. I want to take a look at these videos and see what they show. If you're interested in seeing the raw video, all 3 uninterrupted, I'm going to put those at the very end of this video. So skip to the last 2.5 minutes of this video and you can see the raw videos themselves with no interruption whatsoever. But right now I want to take a look at one particular clip. In the raw video that I post, it'll be the last video, the last 30 seconds or so. So I'm going to post that right now in its completion, about 30 seconds, and then we'll analyze it and talk about what it shows. Let's cut to that right now.
Dude, there's a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is an LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing. It's rotating.
So let's first analyze the statements of the Armed Forces crew that recorded this. First thing he states is there's a whole fleet of them. So there's only one of them on this scope that you see in the video, but there's much more. There's many of them, a whole fleet of them flying that the pilots can see. Next, one of them says, my gosh, I bet their mind was blown. And then he says, they're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots to the west. So I looked up online, because I don't know the conversion. According to what I found, that 120 knots would be 130 miles per hour. So this thing was flying against a wind that was blowing at it at 130 miles per hour. As it begins to fly, and the guy says, look at that thing, it's rotating. So not only is it flying against the wind, against a 130 mile per hour wind or 120 knots, it then begins to rotate, as you can see in the video. What can fly against the wind and rotate like that? Now, we have some amazing technology in our armed forces, and there's no question about it, and these planes can do all flips and everything else. Now, what you saw from the video, I'll put it up real quick, a screenshot of it. It's obviously not shaped like any conventionally craft that we have in the United States Armed Forces that we're aware of. So, yes, we have craft that can flip around, etc., but, you know, nothing that's shaped like this. Now, the fact that this thing is rotating end over end, headed into the wind, tells you one thing almost certainly. It is independent of the forces around it, essentially. There's no way it could rotate end over end against the wind. Aerodynamically, that should not be able to happen. The fact that it does strongly suggests that this UFO is essentially independent of the forces outside of it. And that goes to some of the things that have been stated in the past about the characteristics of unidentified flying objects. And I want to talk right now about Bob Lazar is his name. Bob Lazar in 1989 came out to a reporter in Nevada. He claimed to be, Bob Lazar claimed to be a scientist who was working at Area 51, the famed Area 51 that is alleged to hold secret technologies and maybe even UFO technologies. Bob Lazar stated that he worked at Area 51 on these UFO craft, and one in particular, and he stated that it has technology that is far in advance of anything that we are able to utilize right now. Now this was 1989, and Bob Lazar came out with this information, and some of the things he stated, he said that the craft that he worked on was powered by elements that doesn't exist on Earth, and we have not ever seen conventionally here on planet Earth. He called it element 115. Back in 1989, element 115 certainly did not exist. You go to the periodic table, the scientific periodic table lists all the elements that we know about. Back in 1989, there was no 115. However, decades later, element 115 was fashioned by, I believe it was Russia, and ultimately became known as Moscovium, I believe. I do this off the top of my head. But it's called Moscovium, if I remember correctly. So that gave Bob Lazar some credibility after the fact. In 1989, he said there's this element 115 that powered the UFO craft that he was working on. 20 years later, this element is actually fashioned or discovered in Russia. So that gives some credibility to his story. This UFO that is caught on this camera, I'll post it up again here because I want to talk about what this actually shows. This lends credence to some of the things that Bob Lazar stated as well. One of the things he's talked about is that these craft, and other UFO researchers have found this out as well, is that these craft don't have a conventional propulsion system. And they tap into what's called zero-point energy. Now, typical aircraft, they fly based on a propulsion system that essentially ejects energy from the tail of the craft to propel it forward. So what you have is energy being released, energy or heat signature being released to the rear of the craft, and it propels it forward. So when you see this in any type of infrared, what you're going to see is you're going to see a heat signature being released opposite to the direction of the aircraft. Now let's take a look at this screenshot of the UFO. What we see, and I got this information from Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. Mike Barra, UFO investigator, was doing an analysis of this particular UFO. So this is where this comes from. I get this from them. Take a look at this infrared screenshot here. What you see the UFO in black. That black is a heat signature. The reason it's black is the infrared is saying this is a heated object. It has a heat signature. What you see around it is all white. That means everything around it is cool. There is no heat signature. If this is using a conventional propulsion system, you would see a dark streak somewhere coming out of that craft. That would be the propulsion system. You would see the heat signature of the propulsion system, as I stated, pushing it forward. There is none whatsoever. All you see is white around it. which is really bizarre because that means there's no heat signature whatsoever around the craft. It's actually cooler than it should be. To me, and anybody who would analyze this then says, what kind of propulsion system could this be? This again suggests something that UFO researchers have found, is that these craft use what's called zero-point energy. Zero-point energy would be something that taps into the space-time continuum in the way that's space-time is actually configured, and it taps into this energy in order to propel the craft. You might think of it, a lot of people think of it as actually compressing the space-time so that it skims along, and it uses the structure of space-time in a manner similar that compression of the space-time would just cause it to skim along. So there is no, or there would be theoretically no exhaust or heat signature coming out of it, because it's tapping into zero-point energy. It's actually using the structure of space-time to propel itself. That's what this appears to show. I'm going to post links down below to Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. You can take a look at some of the things that they've done, and maybe you'll be able to find that particular portion of the show where they analyze this this craft. Also post down below some links to some interviews with Bob Lazar, one of them on Joe Rogan, so that you can take a look and see what he states about what he has allegedly worked on. That's pretty much it. The rest of this video is going to be the 3 raw videos, so that you can see them in their completion and make up your own mind. Everybody, thanks for watching and listening. Like, share, subscribe. Love to see some comments down below. Hear what you think about it. Thanks for watching. Everybody have a great day.
Nickel 6-1 Tango Logic, over. Oh, got it! Woohoo! Roger, there's troubleshooting as soon as I get... Did you box moving target? 602.
No, I took an auto track.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Wow, look at that, man. Look at it fly.
Dude, that is a fucking drone, bro.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
My gosh.
They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not.
That is the LNS, dude.
Well, if there's like...
Look at that thing!
It's rotating.